Hello and welcome to eChinese Learning Pod, your go-to podcast for learning Chinese and exploring Chinese culture. To protect speakers' privacy and enhance audio quality, some or all voices in this episode are created with AI assistance.
If you're someone who is just fascinated by what happens, beneath the surface of a conversation, then you are in the right place for this deep dive. We are jumping into a concept that really, it shapes communication for more than 1 billion people. It's called
含蓄.
Right.
That's this deep, deep culture of implicitness in Chinese communication. And if you're used to, say, more direct cultures, it can feel like you're trying to read a map that's printed in invisible ink.
And it's so important to get this from the start. We're not talking about accidental ambiguity here, or even just shyness.
No.
含蓄
Is deliberate. It's structured. Our sources, they call it a social lubricant and even a communication art. It comes from thousands of years of cultural logic, and I think this is the key, survival wisdom.
Okay, so that's our mission for today, right?
Yeah.
To unpack these twin forces that created it. First, we're going to look at the philosophy behind it, the big three. Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism.
The cultural groundwork.
Exactly. And then we'll get into how the harsh realities of ancient society made this style not just preferred, but necessary for survival.
Yeah, and by the end, you'll really understand why, in this context, speaking indirectly is often seen as the most sophisticated, the most respectful, and frankly, the most strategic way to communicate.
All right, let's unpack this, starting with the cultural gene. It seems these core philosophies in China didn't just tolerate subtlety, they actively encouraged it. They call it
委婉
Right, euphemistic expression. And on the flip side, being too direct was seen as, well, crude.
socially crude, which takes us straight to the first pillar.
Confucianism. It's all about structure, ritual, or elan, and of course, maintaining face.
And the core idea there is
和谐
Harmony is precious. That's the highest goal. So if that's your goal, then directly contradicting someone, saying, no, that's not just a disagreement, it's a radical act.
what happens when you just shatter that harmony.
You're tearing face.
Wow.
And face is everything. It's the currency of dignity, of respect. So if you tear it, you've destroyed that fragile harmony the whole system is built on, even if everyone secretly knows the truth is something else.
The relationship matters more than the objective truth in that moment.
Exactly. The relationship is primary.
So, okay, if you have to preserve the relationship, how on earth do you say no? How do you deliver bad news?
Well, you use contation, subtext. You learn to wrap the difficult message in layers of implication.
And so the listener has to do some of the work.
Yes, they have to extract the meaning, which kind of preserves your innocence in delivering the news.
And the classic example they give is perfect. If you have to refuse something, you don't say, no, I won't do that.
No, you'd never say that. You'd say something like, this matter is very difficult to manage.
And the reason that specific phrasing is chosen is fascinating. It's not just a polite no.
It's not. It's an indirect refusal that shifts the blame. It's not you who won't help. It's the situation that's inherently difficult.
That distinction is so critical. It's a blame deflection mechanism.
Absolutely. So the person asking can accept the refusal without feeling personally rejected. Their face is preserved, and so is the relationship for next time.
It's refusal with maximum cushioning.
Right. And this whole idea of softness, of being gentle, is it's supercharged by the next pillar,
Taoism.
Taoism. If Confucianism sets the outer rules, Taoism is the inner guide. And it's all about being flexible, non-aggressive, like water.
The way of water. Right.
The ultimate wisdom is summed up in this one maxim. Great skill looks clumsy, great argument sounds slow.
So the person who is truly wise doesn't need to sound sharp or aggressive.
No, because that sharpness is seen as brittle, as fragile.
So that direct language, what we might value as cutting to the chase,
Here, it's seen as lacking yuanrong,
which is
roundedness, smoothness, the ability to fit into a situation without, sharp edges. Sharp words create conflict. They clash. Rounded words, they flow.
So true power is in the gentleness, not in the aggressive clarity.
Precisely. And that leads us right to the third pillar, which is Buddhism and its concept of
留有余地
Leaving room.
leaving room. It's both a spiritual and a social strategy. It's about avoiding absolute statements to kind of manage future outcomes.
It sounds like the ultimate social hedging strategy.
Yeah.
What's the risk of being too absolute?
If you talk too full, you risk two things. First, you cause resentment right now because you've shut down other points of view.
Okay.
And second, you close off future possibilities. You basically kill any potential alternative path.
You're putting a period where there should have been a comma.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. The goal is always to build good relations, OU. By stopping just short of a final absolute statement, you keep all those future doors open.
It's an amazing fusion. You've got Confucianism on the outside demanding harmony, Taoism on the inside pushing for flexibility, and Buddhism warning against being too absolute.
It all flows toward this subtle, implicit language.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. If the philosophies laid the groundwork for why people prefer this style, it sounds like ancient society made it a literal requirement for survival.
This is the jump from aesthetic choice to absolute necessity. We have to remember the context. Ancient China was a deeply collective agrarian society.
The opposite of our modern individualistic ones.
Totally. People lived in these incredibly tight-knit clans, often for generations. The collective interest was just. It was superior to individual expression in every way.
Which makes every single word you say a high-stakes move.
Extremely high stakes. If your family's survival depends on the entire village working together to manage the harvest, your personal opinion isn't just your opinion anymore.
It could be a threat to the group.
It could be seen as a challenge to authority, something that destabilizes the harmony you need to, survive. So subtle expression wasn't a choice. It was mandatory.
And this all feeds into this idea of the complex relational network, what they call a ranking society.
Yes. Everyone is interconnected by blood or duty or favors. So stating a direct yes or no carries this huge risk of upsetting that very delicate balance.
I think this is where the survival part really hits home. Let's use this scenario from our sources. Say you're an employee, and your leader asks for your opinion on a new plan, a SWIC.
Right. And you think the plan is flawed.
How do you respond? You're completely trapped.
You are. If you say, this is great, let's do it, you might look like a flatterer, and if the project fails, you're on the hook. You backed it absolutely.
And if you're honest and say, this is a bad idea, you've just committed the ultimate sin.
You've torn face, you've directly confronted your leader, you've violated the harmony mandate, you've basically damaged your position in the whole network.
You sacrifice the long-term relationship for a moment of clarity.
And that's where
含蓄
gives you the escape route.
So what's the safe, smart, strategic response?
The standard reply is that wonderfully neutral phrase, it's acceptable, or it's passable. Kaikseng?
It sounds so non-committal.
It is, and it's packed with protection. It's a phrase that gives you room to maneuver.
进可攻退可守
You can advance or retreat as the situation changes.
It's risk management through language. If it works, you can say, see, I knew it was acceptable.
And if it fails, you say, well, I only said it was passable, not great. It protects you. It protects your leader's face, and it keeps the whole social machine running.
So
含蓄
really is where these spiritual ideals meet, well, harsh socioeconomic reality.
Exactly. It's designed to minimize personal risk and preserve the group.
Which brings us to today. We have to look at this as a communication art, but also see the tension it creates in our, globalized world.
I think the art part is what gets missed most often. When there's deep trust between two people, this implicitness is beautiful. The communication bridge is so strong it doesn't need heavy, explicit words. It's all based on respect and this assumption of a shared context.
And the romantic examples in the sources just make it so clear. I love the idea of expressing love not by saying I love you, but by just looking up and saying,
The moon is beautiful tonight.
it's beautiful. It demands that the other person is right there with you emotionally. It honors their perception.
Or the other example, hiding deep affection in the food you cook for someone. Letting them slowly savor the care and the meaning behind it. The silence is where the communication happens.
But here's the tension. In a modern, globalized business meeting with people from different backgrounds,
Where that trust and shared context doesn't exist.
that beautiful art form can just become confusing.
It becomes vagueness or ambiguity.
And that can be a huge problem. The social lubricant becomes grit in the gears.
That's the modern dilemma perfectly. In the traditional system, ambiguity protects the relationship. In a global team, ambiguity damages productivity because nobody knows what's going on.
So in these modern settings, especially with strangers, clarity and setting boundaries becomes the new critical skill.
Absolutely. When you're working across cultures, being clear is a form of respect. It means you're not expecting the other person to read your mind or decode your subtle cues.
So the real mastery, especially for you, our listener, is knowing when to use that deep context implicitness and when you just have to pivot to clarity.
That's the balance.
Right.
And it all comes together in this one final metaphor from the source material, which is just brilliant. Hánxù's like,
留白
The blank space
Yeah.
in traditional Chinese painting.
yes.
I love that. The empty space is never actually empty, is it? It's intentional?
It's left open on purpose. It gives the viewer's imagination infinite room to interpret, to interact, to complete the picture themselves.
含蓄
That aesthetic, that blank space, applied to human interaction,
Yeah.
it honors the listener by trusting them to fill in the meaning.
That brings it all home. We've seen how it
含蓄
is driven by harmony, by face, by flexibility, and by the absolute historical need for collective survival. It's an ancient system built on trust.
And it is entirely based on that assumption of shared context and high trust. So, maybe here's a final thought for you to explore. If traditional respect is found in giving the listener that space to interpret the
留白
what does our global reliance on low-context, high-clarity digital communication do to that?
The quick email, the instant message.
Right. How does that fundamentally reshape not just how we speak, but how we even conceptualize respect in a relationship? Is the need for speed and efficiency slowly overriding these centuries-old aesthetics of subtlety?
Want to practice what you've learned today with a real Chinese teacher? You can get a free one-on-one trial lesson at eChineseLearning.com. That's it for today's episode of eChinese Learning Pod. Thanks for tuning in.